and what just is so entrenched is racism. Systemic, institutional, interpersonal racism. And that's where the work needs to be done, in my view. I'm working on it myself, but this is the work that people in power have to do, us white people. My name is Jamie K. Donaldson, and I am one of the founding activists and the director of the Whatcom Peace and Justice Center here in Bellingham, Washington. It's fair to say the Peace and Justice Center grew out of the Peace Vigil, and the Peace Vigil started in 1966. So that's just to say this is a very long trajectory of social activism in this area. And the Peace Vigil was founded by Quakers and another local activist who were protesting the Vietnam War in silence in front, right down on Railroad Avenue here in Bellingham. They were on the corner for every single week until the war ended. And then others picked up from there and just held a space for peace and social justice here in our town.
I've been coming to the vigil, the weekly vigil, Fridays from 4 to 5, since the mid-90s. And to me, it's kind of being a witness and maybe even a meditation. And it's incredible the caliber of people. There's so many old professors and younger professors and just citizen activists. And so it's a really, really, really good community of people.
Leading up to the hostilities leading to the Iraq War, the activists who were still maintaining that peace presence on the corner every Friday in front of the federal building, some of us decided we have to do more than stand on this corner and hold a place for peace. Some of us decided to create a peace and social justice center as a beehive or a petri dish for social justice action, and peace and anti-war work could have a home here in town. Living here in Bellingham, I'm really proud of the fact that people are active, and they have been. And the way they're active changes with the circumstances. So this year, with not only COVID, but with the murder of George Floyd and the eruption, yet again, of the movement for Black justice and equality. Even though that was a really supposedly very dangerous time for COVID, we went. I went. I wore a mask. Almost everybody there wore a mask. We filled that park, Marine Heritage Park, to the gills.
This is the city, Seattle, County of Kings, State of Washington, Seattle, USA. In all this wide, wide world, there's no other city quite like it. Seattle, it's my city, my home, mine and that of over 500,000 others.
I'm Ann Stadler, and I've lived here in Seattle since 1956. Formerly from Rochester, New York, so I've seen many events on both sides of the country. In the 60s here, and 70s, early to mid 70s, the most significant activity involved a coalition of Hispanics, Native Americans, blacks, and Asians, and headed by Roberto Maestas from El Centro de la Raza, Bernie Whitebear, Native American, Larry Gossett, the Black Student Union, and then other organizations that he was leadership of, and Bob Santos. And they helped each other, and they together made tremendous strides for their people, and that are now bearing fruit, actually, in many different ways, that are really hopefully changing the face of how people of color are treated and how they actually participate in governance and the economic life and so forth. The whole holding the United States accountable for living up to its principles and for its history. In the 60s, and this was not only the civil rights movement, there was a tremendous emphasis on nonviolence, and it came from World War II and civil disobedience related to the draft, and also in the case of Vietnam War, same thing, civil disobedience related to the draft. And so the civil disobedience as a strategy was essential for the civil rights movement. They needed discipline because they were being beaten up by police. And so there was a very strong emphasis and teaching in the civil rights movement about nonviolence. Not been the same kind of emphasis on the strategic end of the civil rights activity, as far as I can discern. It's more the accumulation now of outrage than nothing changed. Not enough changed. I mean, yes, we had legislation, but how do people behave is a different question. And policing has only gotten worse. It has not gotten any better in the North and the South, both, I think. But the kind of strategic base of the movement, I think, is actually quite different now. And on the one hand, you had then the strategy of nonviolence, and on the other hand, you had the strategy of attacking banks and other symbols of capitalism to, sort of demonstrate to the world, and especially to media, what the point of this is. Who was the enemy?
Committee on Civil Rights, which is composed of CORE, NAACP, the Urban League, community leaders, Protestant and Catholic clergymen, believe that the inalienable and self-evident rights of American citizens are not to be debated, are to be negotiated, but to be fulfilled. The problems of prejudice, segregation, and discrimination in America are the moral problems of the white community. We know this, and you know this. Your right and resolute action is the only answer, and your capacity to take that action is the only debate. On the one hand is your conscience and the Constitution. On the other hand are bigotry, fear, and cowardice. One leads to goodwill, understanding, and the American dream. The other leads to the bitterness, suspicion, and distrust of another generation of broken promises. A clear choice is yours. We are leaving this hearing for you to make your decision in calmness, in love, and without rancor, and we simply await your judgment.